Hello. Welcome to Intuitive Insights. I am your host, Megan McDonough. This is where we explore intuition, creativity, and connection to both and how to use it in your life. My hope for this podcast and these messages, these talks, is that we can kind of clarify, demystify, and utilize our intuition in our daily life to become a more positive, kinder, healing, and fearless society in the best way. Big dreams. But the message this week, I would like to talk about, this is something that I've noticed. Okay, so with the rise of spirituality and the rise of technology, we're having a little bit of a battle between all the things that come with technology, which is lots of information, lots of headspace and anxiety and instinct and fear and all those things. And the rise of spirituality, which is really connecting to your soul self and getting more creative and connecting more to our intuition. And so being able to discern what's intuition and what's not is very helpful on this path. But as you continue to spiritually evolve, I keep hearing this. I don't know if you've heard that phrase, spiritual awakening is the phrase that I hear a lot. And I can't tell if I like it or not. I got to be honest. I feel like part of me is like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but it makes it like the way people talk about it, or the way I've heard people talk about it is like that, like, I don't know. In my head, it's like, I'm just like visualizing this, like you're picking out, grapefruit at the store. And then all of a sudden you're like, aha, like it's like a snap thing that happens, like in an instant, as opposed to really taking some time and reflecting on yourself and realizing, that we all are connected, that this life can be pretty gnarly and etc. Anyway, that it's a process. Spiritual awakening to me, when it's talked about, sounds like it's an instantaneous thing, like instant coffee versus like, I don't know, like a pour over, that takes time, to marinate and get a really good cup of coffee. Okay. All right. I've got off track. All right. So what I want to talk about today is that the spiritual awakening journey, but more specifically, the preciousness around it. So, I love that we are all sensitizing. And when I say that, I mean, I teach yoga to a lot of little kids, and I'm just noticing maybe they've always been this way, or maybe we're just more aware and have more information. But I feel like the next generation that is coming in, they're so sensitive. They're coming in with this heightened sensitivity, and it's beautiful. It's really making us older generations have to kind of rethink and restructure how we relate to one another, what actually is important, how we treat each other. It's beautiful. It's hard because with the sensitivities, there's a lot of adjustments that we have to make. But it's beautiful because it's teaching us to be better humans, I feel. That's one insight that I have into a more sensitive youth. But back to the spiritual transformation, the spiritual awakening, as it's called. Because we are all more sensitized, right? It's like this time in between that it's like we're holding space for our precious selves. And some of that I think is beneficial. And some of it I feel can be short-sighted. So what I mean by that is, when does the self-preservation, the self-preciousness around a spiritual evolution become blinded self-preciousness? This is more of a, well, okay, so this is where I kind of, as a kid, I had a hard time with religions. Like, because to me, religions would preach one thing, but then the people preaching it would act in a different way that did not seem to resonate with what they were teaching. So to me, that rang false, that rang hypocritical. And I didn't like it. I thought it was not fair and not right. So I got kicked out of a lot of religion classes for challenging and asking questions. Anyway, that's not the point. But that just gives you some where I come from as a human, as a child. It's always been, what's the truth? And don't lie. If you're going to speak these things and not act that way, then it's not true, right? Or what is true and what's not. So then I became a yoga instructor. And I, through that process, when I was older, I studied a lot on my own. And then I met my teacher, from a yoga institute in India. And I learned from her what was, their institute was very dedicated to Kavalyadam, is what it's called, is dedicated to the scientific research of yoga and to not diluting the texts of yoga. So I loved that, because for me that was pure, right? And when I met my teacher, she wasn't pretending to be anything she wasn't. I remember her picking me up from the train to take me to her house, and we did yoga on beach towels and regular, like loose fitting clothes, no fancy $100 yoga pants, no crazy expensive yoga mat. It's none of that. It was just simple and effective. And when I got in the car with her and she picked me up from the L, I remember I had like a little bit of road rage, and not like I mean, she's a very gentle person, so it wasn't real road rage, but it was just like, oh, geez, he cut me off. Oh, can't believe it. It was that kind of thing. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, I love her. She's like a total regular human who still gets upset. She wasn't falsely trying to pretend like it didn't bother. It bothered her. She spoke to it. She wasn't mean, and she went about her day. Anyway, so it felt authentic to me. And at the time, I'm getting off here too, because this also speaks to vibration and energy and frequency. But at the time, I was like smoking and drinking and like being in my 20s, just like, anyone in Chicago. I was in Chicago. It's a great place to be in your 20s, but like, definitely if you're in your 20s and you're working at a restaurant, you're smoking and you're drinking like on your week. I mean, it was just like we're partying. But I wanted to quit smoking. I just couldn't. I was too anxious, right? And then I went to her house once a week and I learned from her guru cool style. I don't even know what that was when I was doing it, but that was a beautiful gift that I received. And then I noticed like I would leave and then I would smoke and I'd be like, why am I smoking when I left? But then after a few weeks, like not even a month, I don't think, I went to go smoke after I left her house, and my body was like rejecting it. So it's like the frequency of my being was like, no, this doesn't fit anymore. I'm not sure why I went off on that tangent, but anyway, the point is that the energy of being around her and the practice of the doing in its simple form, I didn't really tell anybody about this, shifted in me. So I wasn't super precious about it. But then when I became a yoga teacher, I ran into what I call I ran into a lot of what I call passive aggressive yogis. And what I mean by that is like, and at times I'm sure I was like this too, and maybe I still am, and God, I hope I'm not. But walking around like you're holding a bucket of peace, but you're so afraid that that bucket of peace is going to spill that you're just really precious with your energy. And so the difference between really being a bucket of peace, you're not going to spill. And if you do, it's going to be okay, because there's going to be more where that came from. There's no fear attached to it. But the yogis parading with the fear of dropping and spilling their bucket of peace used what I call that yogic language shield to defend passive aggressive, or sometimes just aggressive, behavior, which to me was the same problem I had with religions. Say one thing nice and pretty and then act another way. And I struggled with this myself too for a long time, because I would, I would drink on the weekends with my friends, not crazy, but I'd have a glass of wine or something, and sometimes crazy, let's be honest. But I was like, I felt hypocritical, even though it doesn't say anywhere that you don't have to, you have to not drink to be a yogi. Well, maybe it does actually. But it's a matter of choices vibrating and fitting within your vibration as well. So, so then that gets mixed signals, and those mixed signals can be disingenuous or hypocritical. So that all of that is bringing me to the preciousness around spiritual transformation or spiritual awakening. And this is what I wanted to say. And it all comes back to the two things: fear and faith. Faith is a sub-frequency or an iteration of the one main frequency, which is love, which is the soul, which is intuition. And fear is kind of the mortal frequency. It's not bad. There's a phrase that I love: there is no good, there is no bad, there just is. And what there is information. So when you feel that fear, that you need to hold on and protect something as it transforms or as it awakens, you're not really awakening or transforming. You're still living in fear. Because the awakening and the transforming the very act of it is elevating you from that fear into love, from that segregation into integration, from separation into connection. From noise to stillness. There's a lot of pointing fingers in today's society in the name of being better or more evolved or more elevated as a human. But whatever we do or say to elevate ourselves, if we're still pointing the finger at someone else, we're still living in fear. We're still living in that separation. We haven't shifted the frequency. We haven't shifted the vibration. So this leans back on that word I just mentioned, which dissolves inherently from its frequency, from its energy, from its vibration, the lines of separation. It dissolves doubt and it dissolves fear. And it does not need to be associated with any particular thing. It's just the feeling and the energy of it. And that's faith. Faith in yourself. Faith in love. Faith in unity, period. Without any discriminations. So let's just take a moment, if you want to try this practice of just sitting in faith. And what does that feel like? The body, the mind, your existence here on earth is an experiment. It's a journey. It's a practice. So experiment. Go on the journey. Practice. Take a few moments to just sit or lie down or just be. You could even do this walking, but find your heart, your mind's eye, place it on your heart area, your heart chakra. And feel that area just bolstering up with light and growing and getting larger and more buoyant. And place the energy or the feeling of faith in your heart. And as you inhale, feel it expand. And as you exhale, feel it strengthen. Inhale, expand. Exhale, strengthen. Inhale, expand. Exhale, strengthen. Inhale, expand. Exhale, strengthen. Keep breathing into this, feeling. Notice how it shifts you. Notice if it shifts you, where it shifts you. The mind noise has no place here. This space is the heart's domain. The heart is the brain of your energetic body. Its guide is your intuitive eye. Breathe into faith. Trust yourself. Now take this energy with you for the rest of your day and see how it radiates. See how it reverberates off others and back onto you. I'd love to hear in the comments how you enjoyed this mini practice. If you've had a spiritual awakening or journey, where you are on it. and what practices you've noticed that have helped you along your way. All right, I hope you have a magical week. Big buckets of love.